Pitt goes to Greensboro. They defeat Georgia Tech, and they might have just punched their ticket to the big dance. Let's talk about it today on this episode of Locked On Pitt.
You are Locked On Pitt, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Panthers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Pitt podcast, everybody. Your daily podcast covering the Pittsburgh Panthers. As always, I'm your host, Nick Faribaugh. A lot of good stuff today from Pitt as they went to Greensboro, took care of business. It ended up being a far rockier road than they probably needed it to be, but hey, they got the job done in the end, and this team will be moving on to the quarterfinals to face the Duke Blue Devils. A lot of things to talk about in this one that I just kind of want to get off my chest, if you will, about how this game kind of went. It was an odd game to me, where Pitt really never fully grasps control in the second half when they definitely should have. I mean, it was an odd game where this team was far better than what this says. The sheet ain't going to tell you the story of this game as much as just watching it will. And that's a different type of story that we're kind of talking about here. And so I look at this game for Pitt and I say, what do you do from here on out? Because this was a really good start to the game, and then it went downhill very fast. And that's an understatement, maybe in a lot of ways. This game started off awesome. Federico was really good to start this game, and they've needed him to be really good because they haven't gotten the sauce they've needed from Federico in recent games. Against Notre Dame, he struggled. Against Miami, he struggled. But now all of a sudden in this game, he's rolling off the dribble to the rack. He's getting these great rebounds, 19 points, 8 rebounds today for him. He's getting great bounce passes to a cutting Blake Hinson. I mean, all of it was crazy. We were like, whoa. And then he got into foul trouble. And so it just kept it slightly at bay. And Federico got taken out of the game, and it wasn't perfect for Pitt. And as a result, Georgia Tech was able to come back in the second half. But let's shout out some key contributors to this game, because I think there's a few. One, Jamarius Burton. We already talked about Federico. If you want a guy that Pitt relied upon just to get a bucket every time they needed one in this game, it's Jamarius Burton. I mean, the guy just was nails. I mean, that's the only way I can describe today what Jamarius Burton did. You're not going to get a better performance out of a first-team All-ACC guy than what you saw today out of him. He was awesome in this game. And I look at Jamarius Burton, and he's had some games where it feels like he's slightly off, or he's maybe not all there because he's been a little bit injured. We know the knees have been coming up as a storyline, but he was awesome in this one. 10 of 15 from the floor for 21 points. Anytime your top guard puts that up, you're going to win a lot of basketball games, and that's just the fact of the matter. He 8 assists, too, in this one, 3 steals. I mean, Burton did just about everything you could have wanted him to in 35 minutes on the floor. And I've said it before, I'm not huge on plus-minus, but he was plus 10, and that made a lot of sense to me. Another guy I really want to shout out, though, Jamarius Burton is a walking bucket, and you know what he can do and how he finishes at the rack. But I just want to shout out Greg Elliott, man. He deserves this. He had been struggling big time prior to this game where he didn't have the three ball after Syracuse. He wasn't making them, and it just had to be a C ball get in, and then it just kind of cascades over you at times. That's what happened here today for him. And by the way, let's talk about some of these shots he made. It wasn't just really good shots. It was huge shots that he made. 60 to 59, he makes a three. The shot clock is then going down. It is 65 to 63. And he's off the dribble and he just nails it with 2 seconds left on the shot clock. I mean, that is an unbelievable shot. That was an unreal shot from that guy. And he played really good defense. They got everything they needed out of Greg Elliott and so much more. He was awesome in this game. I think everything you saw from him was exactly what they needed. And they need him to do that throughout the rest of the tournament. He had 16 really good points in this one. Nelly Cummings, didn't have a great game and didn't have a great start to the second half, and he knew it. And he admitted it to me after the game. That second half, that start to the second half wasn't good. That wasn't him. That wasn't helping the team. And he came back out and made 2 huge layups down the stretch where, GT just wasn't going away. And credit to GT, man. 6 teams, 6 players on that team. They're just gritty and they're going crazy. And yet Pitt just kept them at bay. Just enough. Just enough. That has been the key all day long when I think of this. It's just the amount of guys that got key shots. And Nelly Cummings had 2 of them. Elliott had them. And then Blake Hinson had a few too, man. Listen, Blake Hinson, I thought today did not have a good game. I thought he put the ball on the floor way too much. I think he should have taken more threes. They were trying to run him off the 3 line. I don't really care. I'd rather him shoot the contested 3 than run in and try and take an off-balance mid-range J. That's not really his game. And so I don't really understand it when he's doing that. This is a fun player, though, man, and he made a huge three when they needed it to really close the door on this one. Pitt just got contributions from everywhere. That has been kind of the huge thing. Federico had 19. This is probably his best game overall. Sabandi had a few really key minutes when he was out there. I thought his stuff didn't even show up on the stat sheet. I thought he was just really good defensively today. It really helping Pitt slow down Georgia Tech a little bit on the offensive end in their half-court offense. That's kind of where I thought Nike Sabandi really showcased his worth in this game. It was a real team win. Guillermo Diaz-Graham gave them some key minutes, too, when they needed it. So Pitt got everything they needed and more in this one. But I want to keep talking about this game and kind of what this shows about this team. But first, folks, I want to let you know about FanDuel. FanDuel, the official sportsbook sponsor of Locked On. The midway point of the NBA season is here, and so is March Madness. And, folks, now is the perfect time to download FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook because customers get a no-sweat first bet of up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet does not win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. You think you can bet on anything, money line, point scores, threes drained, so much more. Right now, Pitt Duke, the line, -6. You want to put some down on that, feel free to do it. If you think Pitt can maybe put the upset on, or if you're Pitt the Blue Devils, put it on the Panthers. And FanDuel will even let you combine your bets for an even bigger chance at a payout with the same game parlay that they offer. Don't miss your chance to get a no-sweat first bet of up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go. FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official betting sports partner of the NBA. All right, folks, welcome back to the Locked On Pitt podcast. Pitt with a big win, 89-81 over Georgia Tech. I want to talk about NCAA tournament implications, but I just want to get the spirit of this team. And so I'm going to show you this 2-minute interview I did with Jamarius Burton today in the locker room post-game, just to kind of give you guys the view of what was going on in the locker room after the game. So here's Jamarius Burton.
You had some pretty emotional moments out there on the floor today. You got pretty fired up. How did you stay within your own self in those moments where it did get tough today?
Yeah, for me, I have a passion for winning. I don't play to play, I play to win. And for me, I just try to, give that off with my play and, with my voice out there on the floor for my teammates. And I was able to do that today. I understood the magnitude of this game. I understand that it was win or go home. So that's why you saw a little bit more passion out there than usual.
Georgia Tech went on that huge run to start the second half. Coach calls a timeout, about 2:30 off the clock. Mm-hmm. What did he say to you guys? How did you rally from that point?
Yeah, he just told us to calm down, take care of the basketball. We were making it easy on them, giving them transition points, allowing them to get out and transition. And for us, we wanted to correct those things because we understood that that's what makes them dangerous. That's what makes them dynamic. And when we were able to do that, as the game went on, we were able to pull away.
What does it say about this team where, Fetty maybe struggles for a little bit, has a great game. Greg struggles for a little bit, has a great game. Nelly struggles in this game, makes two key free throws and then layups. What's it just say about this team where you guys just, even if you're struggling, just make shot, just keep making that?
Yeah, for us, it just comes down to our competitiveness. Nobody on our team is condemning one another if you make or miss a shot, if you're doing well or not. It's all about encouraging one another and continue to push each other to be the best that they can be. And we continue to do that regardless if guys are struggling or not. And you see guys bounce back after struggling.
Fetty had 13 in the first half. What was the most impressive thing to you about him today?
Yeah, I just think his aggressive mindset when he got the ball down low, he caught it and was going up with force, and that's what coach demands of him, and he was doing that today at a high level.
How much of that maybe was by design versus adjustment? Because Georgia Tech started selling out for threes.
Yeah.
And he was kind of slipping and rolling to the basket. How much of that was adjustment and moment?
Yeah, I would just say it was a lot about moment. We understood that they were switching the ball screen. So if the five's on me or Nelly, he has an advantage because our men is guarding him. And then just throw it high where he can catch it and finish. And we were able to do that down the stretch.
Nelly called tomorrow a get-back opportunity against Duke. What does that mean that you get that opportunity again this season after what happened to Cameron?
Yeah, we were all disappointed with how we lost, how we, didn't do a great well of boxing out and maintaining our rebounds. So we definitely want to make that a point of emphasis and come back on the other side of things this time.
Do you think the rebounding effort was at least improved tonight?
Yeah, definitely. I thought for a while, Franklin was having his way, but we were able to gain rebound and, get the rebound sometimes and, and attribute to us getting out on offense and getting some great looks.
All right, so there's Jamarius Burton talking after the game. I thought he had a lot of good things. The competitiveness factor, just the factor that they keep having that resiliency with one another and kind of building upon everything that they have. I think it's really actually quite impressive to see Pitt just continue to bounce back. But let's talk about NCAA tournament implications. So Pitt, wherever you thought they were now, whether it was last four in or if they were a 9 seed, I don't know. I've seen all of that. That's the range I've seen. I think this gives Pitt some cushion. Now, I've said this on Twitter, but I'll say it here too. If Pitt wins tomorrow against Duke, they are a stone cold lock. You could just hammer it home. You shouldn't even be sweating on Selection Sunday at that point. Just sit out on your fan and wait to hear the name called because they'll be called at that point. But what you need to look out for now for Pitt is where they are seated. I think they get in regardless of where they go now. I just would not want to go to Dayton. I think that they can avoid Dayton with a win. And I think that's the key. They have to win against Duke to 100% avoid Dayton. I think they'll be in regardless. But you don't want to go to the first four because that just makes it so tough to make that deep run. You have more wear and tear than the other teams. And so, yeah, it's going to be very, very tough for Pitt to avoid that first four without a win over Duke for 100% certain. But this game was so much fun in terms of where you look on the spectrum for Pitt. Key shot after key shot, resiliency. They don't have their best stuff. Georgia Tech comes out a gritty team with an absolute haymaker, and Pitt doesn't care, and they come back and continue it to go. That is the key for Pitt. And they just haven't given up. And I love seeing that from this team, man. They're such a fun unit. It's such a cohesive unit. I love Jamarius Burton's leadership that he continues to bring to this team. And clearly that was kind of the big thing. He was the man commanding the room, if you will, and rightfully so. That's Jamarius Burton's kind of role. He's the grown man of the room, even though it's full of grown men, obviously, with some of the older guys. But Burton really, I think, this showcased his kind of leadership factor that Jeff Capel talks about all the time. And I think Pitt has a very good chance now to make the NCAA tournament. Just it's going to be, can you avoid Dayton? And that's the question. I would rather avoid Dayton if I were Pitt. But Duke upcoming tomorrow. This is the question. Can Pitt beat Duke? That's going to be a tough game. And the reason that is going to be a tough game is Duke just matches up really well against Pitt. You know, one of Pitt's biggest issues, right, has been their rebounding. Well, maybe the biggest thing that Duke does well is they just get up the boards. When you have Filipowski and Lively crashing the boards that like they do for Duke, man, it's tough. And Duke's playing the best basketball they have all season right now. I mean, they are coming in as an absolute freight train. Good luck to Pitt, man. But Duke really, to me, is playing the best basketball in the entire conference. I mean, they could make a run at this. That has been John Shire's team is playing at such a high level right now. Jeremy Roach is back and healthy. He's playing very well. You know, he didn't play the first time Pitt played. They've won 6 in a row entering this one. And it's not like they've won, 6 in a row against scrub teams. I mean, yes, they lost to Virginia, but since then, they really got pummeled by Miami. But since then, playing really good, beat Notre Dame, pummel Syracuse, pummel Louisville, pummel Virginia Tech. They beat NC State, and then they go to Chapel Hill and win. It's a good stretch for this team, and Filipowski continues to play at such a high level. But you look at some of the things that differentiates Duke from a lot of teams. One, they're deep. Most bench points in the entire ACC per game, up near 20. Their rebound margin is awesome. They make a lot of gains just off the second chance points. They get almost 13 offensive boards per game. Last time Pitt played them, they had over 20. I mean, that was the big reason why they lost that game. But defensively, this team is just long. They're great inside the paint. They get a lot of blocks. They turn that into transition points, and they get out on the fast break. And that's been the big thing. You know, one of the best rebounding teams in the nation is Duke because of that. And that's how they create some of their offense. But the perimeter defense is really good too, so they're not going to get crushed by the three. That's been another big thing with them. You look at why they won that UNC game, they just ran the Tar Heels off the three-point line. I mean, they only made 5 threes out of 23 attempts. And so it's tough to do that. And then you say, okay, maybe we can drive, but they're so long and they're so physical down low with Lively and Filipowski. It's just tough to match Duke tit for tat. And so Pitt's going to have a really tough matchup. But I've been telling people for a while, they said, who do you want to see in the ACC tournament? And I said Duke, because you have Ryan Young there too. You have Derek Whitehead. You have so many different guys to worry about. And the length of them is a special matchup prop for Pitt. But that's the good thing to me about this. If Pitt can beat Duke, Pitt can beat just about anybody. Period. They can beat Duke. They can beat just about anybody. So you see what Pitt is doing right now. And it's hard not to be extremely enthusiastic about this opportunity because it presents such a unique opportunity for the Panthers with that length, with that size, with what is a really tough group to shoot from downtown on. If Pitt can shoot from downtown on this team, man, it could be a real barn burner. I think this one should be a really fun one for Pitt. It's going to be a very hard game It's going to be a hard-fought one, and if they win it, they're going to earn it. But this could be a real resume builder, a real statement win for Pitt. But they haven't played all that well recently, and that's the worrying part of it all. Pitt has continuously kind of struggled throughout the season with their rebounding, with their cohesiveness on defense. And trust me when I say this, Duke will make you pay if you do not keep it in line there. Pitt has to make sure to do that. But it's a great opportunity to me to build in terms of character for the NCAA tournament. These are the type of teams that could really give Pitt a lot of trouble. Well, don't let them give you trouble. It's quite simple. Overcome them. And I think that's the big thing for me is I want to see Pitt overcome this type of team, this good of a team in this style. We'll see if they can. All right, folks, as always, thank you for listening to the Locked On Pitt podcast. We'll be back tomorrow after the Duke game talking about Pitt and where they're going moving forward. As always, thank you for listening. As always, hail